I want to thank all of you guys for coming out tonight. I know it's tough to do in the summertime, but this is something that your sons and daughters will appreciate that you're doing, being that they need this in order for you to for them to get a parking tag. I just want to introduce some people. Before we start though, remember, at the conclusion, make sure when you go out, the far table will be for Jackson Liberty parents. The closest table, once you exit, will be for Jackson Memorial parents. You have to make sure that you sign out so we have record of your attendance, or we're not going to be able to give the tag out to your son or daughter. I just want to introduce a couple people. My name is Jeff Brignol. I'm one of the assistant principals at Jackson Liberty High School, and I take care of the parking and the driving over there. Mr. Kyle Brunson is an assistant principal here at Jackson Memorial, and he takes care of the driving and parking over here. He was outside. He'll be coming in to speak with us in a little bit. Officer Manafra. He's the SRO here. He's a police officer in town. He'll be giving you guys some information from a police department perspective. Reverend Dan Schaefer is the chaplain for the Jackson Police Department. Like I said, in the summertime, we're happy that you can get here. Sometimes the schedules are tough to get the people to come, so he may be here. Hopefully he is able to make it. If he's not, we're going to miss his presentation because it is really good. And good news and bad news for you guys. The bad news is that we will not have our student assistance coordinators because of summertime commitments. Ms. Mangini Harold is the student assistance coordinator at Liberty, and Ms. Tracy Carney is the student assistance coordinator here. So the bad news is that they won't be here. The good news for you is that it makes our presentation a little bit shorter. So you'll be out here a little bit quicker. Okay, I normally start off the program saying that most of you are pretty well aware of the driving of teens and the tragic accidents we've had in the past. I'm not going to start it that way this year because, knock on wood, for about the past 4 years, we've been very lucky not to have any fatalities with our students in the Jackson School District. However, about 8 years ago, when we were having a lot of driving accidents and students were being killed, we decided that there was something more that we needed to do. So a bunch of committees in town, as you can see up on the screen, got together and brainstormed ideas, what we were going to try and do to eliminate any more fatalities of the students in the Jackson School District while driving. And one of the ideas that came from that was have a meeting with parents to give you guys a bunch of perspectives on what we and the town can do, as well as what you as parents can do to hopefully eliminate any of those tragedies. We in the Jackson School District do a lot in educating the students in regards to driving. There's a lot of stuff, so I'm going to read some of the things that we have here. Driver's education instruction to all 10th grade students. Hold special driving programs during the school year. We have pre-formal junior class assembly prior to the junior formal for all 11th graders. We have something called Project Graduation, and that's prior to the senior prom for 12th graders. Keep your ears open for that during the springtime because that's something that the parents are invited to, and I highly recommend that you come because it is a very good program and the students are the ones who actually present the program. We have something called Live at 25, which provides 11th grade students, is provided to them during their 11th grade health classes. Another one that the students run and the parents are also invited to is called Grim Reaper. Okay, it's a school-wide program targeted specifically at traffic fatalities. We have something a couple years ago that we started called Don't Text and Drive. It's targeting the recently escalating tragedies that are occurring when kids are texting while they're driving. Another new one was Hashtag Drug Code, 2-day program for all freshmen in health classes that discusses marijuana, alcohol, and opiates. Lots of guest speakers we have throughout the year. This includes local and state police, trauma center professionals, family members of teens involved in fatal accidents, teens involved in driving programs, drivers, education instructors, and other outside parties all come and speak to our students at Memorial and at Liberty about some of the things that are going on that they see day in and day out with car accidents involving students. District also made the goal last year to infuse more education in regards to being a good passenger and make good decisions while riding with your friends. And you'll see a little bit more with that when we show the video later. The one piece that we couldn't figure out how to get across when these organizations came to brainstorm was you, the parents, are the final piece. Is because when they get their permits, they're driving with you guys. So they're going to follow your example. And I can attest, my son just got his license in March. So I had to make a conscious effort to make sure I wasn't using my phone while I was driving, make sure I wasn't speeding through yellow lights, driving carefully if it's raining out, show him all the tricks of the trade to be a safe driver. And that's where you guys come in. So we're asking you to help us to eliminate any of those accidents that could have, fatalities in them. And like I said, so far, I'd like to think that these programs that we do in the school during the school year, as well as this drive-in meeting, are working because we have been very fortunate for the last couple of years. Okay, so what we're going to talk to you about tonight, one thing is the application process and what your sons and daughters need to do in order to get that tag. Mr. Brunson will be going over that. How we as a school district use the parking as a motivational tool. There's certain things that your sons and daughters have to do while they're in school, behavior-wise, academic-wise, attendance-wise, to make sure that they are able to keep their tag. We will not be hearing from the student assistance coordinators. I will tell you though, if you have any issues, whether they're social, drug or alcohol related, these are two people, Ms. Mangini Harold in Liberty and Ms. Carney in Memorial, that you should reach out to because they have a plethora of knowledge and years of experience, as well as lots of references and connections that they can get you in touch with. We will hear from Officer Manafra to give us a perspective from the Jackson Police Department, and finally we'll end with the driver safety DVD. So without going any further on my part, I will bring up Mr. Brunson and he will go over the application process for you.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Mr. Mignola pointed out, I will be covering the application process by which your son or daughter may obtain a parking permit here at Jackson Memorial or at Jackson Liberty. First things first, this is a 12th grade privilege. You must be a senior, a 12th grade student, in order to obtain a parking permit to park on school grounds. This means you must have the correct number of credits, 90 going into your senior year. So if you are a fourth year student and you do not have or you will not have 90 credits by the start of school, you will not be eligible for a parking permit or to receive a parking permit until you reach that mark, which may be at the conclusion of the first semester. You have to be a student in good standing. There can be no financial obligations, meaning if you, let's say, owe money for a lost textbook, missing athletic equipment that was not turned in, that will have to be settled with the principal secretary in order for you to obtain your parking permit. Additionally, you cannot be on conduct probation, you cannot have outstanding discipline, or have any attendance issues. If you are a student who has those circumstances or has those issues, you will not be able to obtain a parking permit. I'll talk a little bit more about the other items regarding not being able to get that in just a few minutes. The process itself, you must complete and submit an application which may be obtained at the end of the evening on the tables from the ladies outside the auditorium. You must submit a valid copy of a New Jersey driver's license, a copy of your vehicle registration, and a copy of proof of insurance, and the $20 parking fee. Cash or money orders, please. No checks will be accepted. And these must be submitted to the assistant principal's secretary at each individual school. Applications may be picked up in the assistant principal's office at each relative school starting Monday, August 1st. Application submission to the appropriate assistant principal's office are as follows. Mr. Brignall's office may be found in room C-133 at Jackson Liberty, and here in the Memorial Office, the Bernie Ryder Building here at Jackson Memorial. Hang tags may be picked up beginning the week of August 9th. I'm sorry, that should say August 9th, not the 2nd. And once school begins on September 6th, they can be picked up after school hours. One of the things that we do here, we do use parking as a motivational tool. It is a privilege that the seniors have waited a very long time to take advantage of. So we like to use that to encourage students to make good decisions, do the right thing when they come into school, and set a good example. They are the eldest students in the building, and we certainly look for them for leadership. And the parking privilege is certainly a motivational tool that we like to use to encourage students to, again, set a good example. Attendance can affect a student's ability to park on campus. If you are excessively late to school or you have excessive absences, your parking privileges can be suspended or revoked. Specific details of that you'll find in the application packet. Behavior, meaning discipline here in school, can also affect the student's ability to park. If a student is on conduct probation, meaning they've committed an infraction and they're on conduct probation, let's say for 6 weeks, that student will not be allowed to drive to school for those 6 weeks and will have to surrender the parking pass to the appropriate administrator, and it will be reissued once the conduct probation has ended. Occasionally there can be a single incident that is so heinous that a student can lose their parking privilege for that single infraction. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And so, again, we like students to make good decisions, but again, if a student does make a poor decision and commits an infraction that is so heinous, as I said, they will lose that parking privilege. And if there's a series of accumulated disciplinary infractions, let's say fights or poor behavior, poor cafeteria behavior, things of that nature, a student can lose their parking privileges for accumulated discipline, meaning a series of infractions that results in the loss of their parking permit. And again, that could be for the duration of conduct probation or at times for the remainder of the school year. Also, we encourage students to make good decisions when they are behind the wheel, be it on campus or off. So if a student is found to be reckless and endangering themselves and other students while behind the wheel of their vehicle, they can lose their parking privileges. It's happened on campus, and we've also had our Officer Manafra here have to pull over and deal with students who made poor decisions while behind the wheel as they drove off campus or were on their way to school, which can happen. Again, credit eligibility is a factor in a student earning a park or receiving a parking permit. Again, a student must have 90 credits in order to be eligible to receive a parking permit. Exceptions are granted occasionally, but again, those situations are reviewed by the building principal, and that individual will make a determination as to whether or not that student will receive a parking permit if in fact they are short of the said 90 credits. All right, that concludes my segment of the presentation. I'd like to thank you for your time and attention, and I'd like to call up Officer Colin Manafra from the Jackson Police Department.
Is that better?
Yes.
As Mr. Bruns said, my name is Officer Manafra. I'm with Jackson Township Police Department. I'm an SRO with the Jackson Memorial High School. I'm also assigned to Get School and elementary schools that would attend Get School and eventually come here to Jackson Memorial High School. Also Bajowski, he's assigned to Liberty High School, and he takes care of all the other schools that would attend Liberty High School. I'm just going to cover some of the things involving the child's GDL license, some of the restrictions that come along with that license, I like to keep it simple terms such as the 17-year-old license for your child. So basically, when your child turns 17 years old and he gets his driver's license, he or she, they can basically drive by themselves. But with that comes some restrictions. One of the restrictions is how many people you can have in the car with you. Your child, if they're 17 years old, can only have one person in the car with them at all times. It doesn't matter if you, the example I give to the kids is if you tell them to go pick up their grandparents, basically they cannot do that. They can only have one person in the car with them at all times, unless they have their legal guardian with them. Okay, so that's how it's written. If they have the legal guardian with them, they can have as many people in the car with them as there is seatbelts. Time frame, they're only allowed to drive. I'll word it this way, I'll change that. The only times they're not allowed to drive is from 11:01 p.m. to 5 a.m. So those times are the times they're not allowed to operate a vehicle. Also, there is some, I guess, reasons why they would be able to operate their vehicle between those times. That's for religious purposes and for work purposes. If you go into one of those functions, such as work or religious reasons, you need to have a document with them or some type of written note from their employer or whatever religious function that they are going to or coming from. So that's the two reasons why they will be able to operate their vehicle between those times. School does not count. That's a big one. Ski trips, sporting events, all that stuff, prom time does not count. That is not one of the reasons why they would be able to drive between those times. The stickers. You see the decals, you're supposed to have 2 decals that you can buy from B&B. They're $4 for a pair of them. I don't know why, but that's what they charge you. It's supposed to be on the front and rear of the vehicles. A lot of the kids say they don't like to use them, or the parents say they don't have to use them. Again, I always tell them, remind them that yes, if you do get pulled over, that is a violation, and you can be issued a summons for that. I know that you read about things, and there's things said about this, about the concerns, about being parked and so forth. And I tried to explain to them that there's other ways that you can basically put yourself in better situations, such as if you decide to use the stickers, when you park your car in a mall or something, take the stickers off. Things like that. You know, when you come back to your car, someone doesn't know that, hey, a younger driver may be operating this vehicle and be waiting for it. So we try to give them ideas. You know, if there is concerns about using decals, there's other ways of thinking about, you know, how I can use the decals in a safer way. Basically, we do a program here as well called Alive at 25. Myself, I do it here at Memorial. Also, Johnson does it at Liberty. It's a great program. It's a defensive driving program. It's all done for all the seniors. We also speak to sophomores and juniors about better driving habits. So this stuff is not new to them. They know the rules. They know, you know, if they do break the rules, they know what violations, they know what the point system is. So if they're telling me they don't know how many people are allowed in the car and all these things, what times they're not allowed to drive, I would highly doubt they are telling you the truth. If you go online, you go right to New Jersey DMV, they'll give you all the requirements, they'll give you all the rules right there, right on your webpage. One last thing, the police department does have an agreement with Jackson Township Board of Ed and the superintendent and each principal of each school. So obviously in this situation, if your child gets into some type of violation outside of school, gets multiple tickets, gets pulled over, things like that, that is something I will share with the principal of the school. We have a written agreement with the superintendent, the chief of police, and we can release that information to each principal of you know, wherever school they attend, Liberty or Memorial. And again, I think Mr. Brunson did mention that could reflect on if they're able to drive to school or if their privilege is going to be taken from them for a certain amount of days. Okay? That's all I really have. If you have any questions, I'll stay afterwards and I'll be in the lobby. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Manafra. Just to reiterate what you were saying, we've had students in the past, maybe coming to school, they might pass a bus coming to school. That stuff is all on camera as well, so the bus drivers will, come in and tell us that this license plate, that whatever infraction it was, and that could be a reason that the tag is revoked for a certain amount of time. Like I said, we don't have Reverend Dan here tonight or our student assistance coordinators, so we are going to move into the last part, which is about a 15-minute video about safe driving. And this is all students who were talking about some of the things they got involved with. It has nothing to do with drunk driving, just some poor decisions on some of the students.
Thank you for watching Rear View, Looking Back, presented by State Farm. After you watch the video, take a look in the extra section for safe driving tips. There's also a section for parents, so encourage them to take a look. Thanks.
When I first got my license, everything was, really pretty cool.
It was my first car. It was something I get to do finally. I get to be responsible for myself.
Something I'd been looking forward to for probably 16 years, I guess. Or since I was old enough to know, that I was going to get to drive.
In the car, when you're talking to your friends and you're laughing and you're singing a song and stuff, you're not paying attention to what's exactly going on or how fast you're going in the car.
Teenagers don't have rules, you have rules at home. You have rules in your parents' car. You don't have rules in a teenager's car. Not at all. We were playing around, of course, I mostly was on the road, but you know how kids are. Of course, you look in the rearview mirror, seeing what everyone's doing in the back seat.
They were just average kids. Greg had driven 2 years and never had a ticket and never had an accident. They drove a little fast, but what kids don't.
I got in the car to go to school because I got picked up from Ashley every day. Me and Natasha argued over who was going to sit in the front seat, and she won the argument, of course.
It was my friend's 21st birthday, and I was, just having a few with him.
It started out just to be a normal morning. They usually took off for work about the time I went outside on the farm and started chores and things, and they were just joking around in the morning, and it was a cold winter morning, and roads were good, really didn't think anything about it.
She reached over with her left hand to grab something out of the center console, and when she reached over, it kind of just swerved the car a little, and we were going about 65 miles per hour, and the speed limit was actually 45.
I was driving, and it was, I think, at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and we were heading home. We were doing 90 plus mile an hour around a curve, and we flew straight off that curve and into an embankment, and it was pretty deep. Hit head on, and that was where it stopped. It pushed the whole front end of the truck back on us.
Police had said it looked like, for some reason, Greg had gotten a little off the edge of the road. When he pulled back on, he overcorrected and spun around sideways, and then went through the ditch, and the driver's door hit the power pole. And they estimated he was going 79 when he lost control and probably hit the pole around 50 miles an hour. So
we had to drive by it in order to get to the hospital. We just knew that our whole reality had changed, and as bad as the accident looked, we didn't know if we had any sons left.
We knew that Greg couldn't have survived, and we just prayed that Steve was able to come out.
There were 4 people in the back seat, 1 in the passenger. It was just us 6 going out for a good time. It was actually 3 couples. Next thing I know, I do see a hand pulling the steering wheel. And, you know, the first time I could correct it. You know, the second time he pulled again, and the car went into a slide where I couldn't get out of the slide. It just went sideways and right into a tree. And the next thing I knew, I wake up, looking around, not knowing what's going on. You know, there's dust everywhere. And I see Robbie next to me, and two guys run into the car, asking if we're okay. And I'm just like, what just happened? When it hit this tree, it wrapped around it. And as the back end went around it, three of my friends went out the back window. There was Jenny, and then Jesse, and then Tasha in the far back, and there was Lester trapped inside the car still. And that's when it like hit me like, whoa, they're not just, you know, unconscious, you know, they're dead.
The car actually spun for about 200 feet, and then it hit the light pole.
911 emergency, John.
Yeah, there was just an accident on Sahara right before is that Sloan? I think it's before Sloan. It's really bad. It's really bad.
Are you okay?
I wasn't in the accident. I just saw it. This is all my friends. And then, all of them were. Oh, my God.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
What are you seeing? What are you seeing?
The car is in half. It's split in half. The other half is down the street. And my friends are all screaming.
I remember hitting the pole and then, like, opened my eyes, and there was just a bunch of metal everywhere, really. When the car hit the pole, it actually split in half. The front of it went about 50 feet down the road, I believe. I couldn't see anything from my waist down, and then I looked up in the front seat, and the hardest part about it was that my two best friends, the girls I went everywhere with every day, the ones that I just hung out with and shared my life with, they were both just bleeding. And the driver, she had hit her head on the steering wheel, I believe, and there was blood and brains coming out of her head. And Natasha, the passenger, she died on impact. When I heard them say there's been a fatality, and then I saw them pull a sheet over her body in the road, I didn't want to see I didn't want to know that. After an hour and a half, they grabbed under my arms and they started to pull. And I started screaming because I felt this excruciating pain. And when they put me on the stretcher, when they finally got me out of the car, I heard him say, "We gotta find her foot." I lost consciousness, my heart stopped. I died for about 3 minutes on the helicopter.
I woke up in the hospital and didn't know why I was there or anything, I guess because of my head injuries. And, you know, they told me that I was driving and I was going too fast around a corner and that my blood alcohol level was 0.07. At that time, 0.08 was the legal limit. So I wasn't actually considered, you know, a DWI, but I was definitely intoxicated. My friend lost his life in the accident. I was actually in the hospital through my friend's funeral. I didn't even get, you know, wasn't allowed to go, you know. I actually have broke like every bone in my face. I've got a pin holding my cheek in there. I don't have a real cheekbone. I've got two plates and screws all down through my jaws and screws in my arm, holding my arm together. It was broke.
We stayed down at the hospital for a week or 10 days because Steve was in such critical condition and moment to moment. And then we were also dealing with the fact that we had a funeral to plan. And it was an incredibly impossible situation. Really hard.
When we left the rehab hospital, they basically told us Steve will probably never walk again, never talk, never be able to eat. He was on a feeding tube, and the best prognosis wasn't very good.
I had to go to court and I had to testify. The first time I testified against him was to prove that I was innocent, to prove that he was guilty of pulling the steering wheel. He got jail time, juvenile, which I think it was up to 2 years for each account, which was 4 accounts, 4 kids that died. For me, as a result of the accident, I got 2 years of my license suspended, 250 hours of community service, and probation. And that was just for a speeding ticket.
I remember waking up in the hospital, and my mom was right there. And I had already gotten, I think they said 9 surgeries. I had already gotten my leg amputated. They found they reattached my left foot. I was crushed from the waist down. Every bone, my spine, my pelvis, my hips, my legs were all crushed into pieces, and I was never supposed to walk again. I shouldn't even be here. It's a miracle that I lived through that.
I was charged with involuntary manslaughter in the first degree, and I got charged with 2 counts of second-degree assault, which are all 3 Class C felonies. When I started going to court over it all, I was actually facing 21 years in penitentiary.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I need to come in for the weekend.
Just a minute, I'll get the jailer.
I got locked up in the county jail for about 6 months, and then when it finally all came together so we knew what was going to happen, I ended up doing 2 years worth of weekends in the county jail.
Put yours right in there. We'll book you in just a minute.
You got 4 walls there. It's not something to look forward to. A lot of people are like, oh man, it's the weekend, I dread mine.
It's hard, but I think Steve's stubbornness and endurance, and he had his mindset that he was going to recover, and he did.
I remember not being able to talk. That was frustrating. I should have said, slow down.
Especially when I go to grave sites. I get down on my knees and I say that I love them. I miss them very much. Life is a lot different without them. I have not talked to any of their parents since the day of the accident. They don't want anything to do with me. I know they think that I'm responsible. They think me and my boyfriend were both responsible. And they figure, I was the driver of the car, so I should be able to control everything that happened in the car. And they just believe it was all my fault.
I had a lot of fun, and I knew every day when I woke up that I'd be with my best friends and we'd be having a good time. And it was something to look forward to every day. Never thought it'd be taken away from me like that.
Everything was normal, fine. We was partying, having fun, and then that one night, it happened. Just knowing that my best friend lost his life because of me, I don't even have a word to tell you how bad that feels. It's hard to live with yourself.
Greg thought he was a good driver. He was very confident, and he was, for his age, a good driver. But all it takes is one mistake.
It was just a normal teenage day, you know? To me, that's all it was. And I believe people do see me as maybe a bad person or, you know, not smart for, you know, having 4 people in my back seat. But, you know, a 16-year-old is a 16-year-old.
I loved life. I mean, I still do, but I loved my best friends more than anything in the world. I mean, they were my life. And it's so hard to explain to other teenagers right now like this. Like, they'll watch this and they'll be like, you know, they'll feel bad, you know. I don't want them to feel bad for me. I just want them to know that it can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter who you are, you know, how much money you have or how much fun you have in high school. It can happen to you, and you could lose the most important people in your life.
There are so many stories like these. In fact, you probably know someone who's been through something like this. Auto accidents are the leading cause of teenage deaths, but there are some simple things you can do to cut down on your chances of being involved in crashes like these. I know you've heard it before, but wear your seatbelt and slow down. Most of these crashes could have been avoided if the drivers were doing the speed limit. Also, as Sarah pointed out, keep control of your car. Don't have too many passengers, and don't let them goof around while you're trying to drive. And stay focused on the road. Don't try and do other things while you're driving. Whether you're getting something out of your console, playing with the radio, or trying to make a call, it just takes a second to lose focus. Try and give yourself plenty of time to react if something happens in front of you. Follow the 2-second rule. When the car ahead of you passes a stripe on the road or something that's not moving, you should be able to count to 2 before you pass the same object. Finally, don't put yourself in a bad situation. You know you're not supposed to drink and drive, but bad weather, congested traffic, and lack of sleep can cause problems too. In fact, most teen crashes happen at night. Just try and avoid these situations if you can. You already know you're supposed to do most of these things, but as you've seen, all it takes is one mistake. Take care and be safe out there.